Jack had always been a night owl, his eyes forever fixed on the vast, unending canvas above. His small cabin in the woods served as the perfect outpost for his stargazing endeavors. Tonight, however, the tranquility of his usual celestial observations was abruptly interrupted. A streak of bright light sliced through the night sky, not burning out like the typical meteor, but instead crashing somewhere in the dense thicket that bordered his property. Curiosity overcame caution as Jack grabbed his flashlight and headed towards the impact site. The woods were eerily silent, with only the crunch of dry leaves underfoot breaking the quiet. As he neared the location, the air tingled with a strange electricity, making the hair on his arms stand on end. Probably just static, Jack muttered to himself, pushing through the last bit of underbrush. There, in a small clearing, lay a twisted and smoldering object. It was unlike any meteorite Jack had ever seen, metallic and constructed, with symbols etched into its surface that glowed faintly in the moonlight. As he approached, a hatch on the side of the object swung open with a hiss, revealing a figure huddled inside. Jack paused, his heart racing. "Hello," he called out tentatively. There was a rustle from inside the object as the figure stirred, slowly turning to face him. The being that emerged was unmistakably alien, with luminescent skin that shimmered under the flashlight's beam and eyes that reflected a deep, cosmic blue. She looked around, visibly disoriented, before her gaze settled on Jack. "Do not fear," she said, her voice melodic yet strained. "I mean no harm." Jack lowered his flashlight, his scientist's curiosity kicking in over the initial shock. "I'm Jack," he introduced himself. "You crashed on my property. Are you hurt?" She staggered out of the wreckage, leaning heavily against it. "I am Lyra," she replied, assessing her surroundings. "I have sustained minor injuries. Your assistance would be appreciated, Jack." Without hesitation, Jack offered his shoulder for support. "Let's get you inside. You can rest and tell me more about where you came from." As they walked back to his cabin, Lyra's head turned towards the sky, her expression one of longing and concern. "Your sky is beautiful," she remarked, "so different from my own." Jack chuckled softly. "I spend most nights watching it. Never thought I'd find someone from up there to share it with." Inside the cabin, Jack helped Lyra onto a couch, fetching a first aid kit. As he treated a superficial cut on her arm, he couldn't help but ask, "So, what brings you to Earth?" "It's not every day I find an alien in my backyard." Lyra looked away momentarily, pain not from her injury, but something deeper shadowing her features. Was a scientist in my world. I advocated for peaceful exploration, but not all shared my views. I had to flee." Jack nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "You're safe here, Lyra. You can stay as long as you need to figure things out." "Thank you, Jack," Lyra replied, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Perhaps I can learn much from you during my stay." "And I from you," Jack said, his mind racing with a million questions about her world, her technology, her life. But all that could wait. For now, rest. We'll figure out the next steps in the morning. As Lyra settled into the cushions, Jack pulled over another chair, his gaze flitting between the alien guest and the night sky outside. Tonight had changed the trajectory of his quiet, solitary life, and somehow, he felt that was exactly what he needed. Morning light spilled into the cabin, casting warm glows on the wooden floors. Jack had been up for hours, unable to shake the excitement of last night's encounter. He brewed coffee with an extra spring in his step, humming softly to himself. Lyra stirred on the couch, her eyes fluttering open to the unfamiliar, yet comforting surroundings. "Good morning," Jack greeted, setting a cup of coffee on the table. "How are you feeling today?" "Better, thank you," Lyra responded. Sitting up, she glanced at the coffee, curiosity lighting her features. "Is that a customary morning beverage here?" Jack chuckled, handing her the cup. "Yes, it's called coffee. It might be a bit strong for your taste, but it's how many of us start our day." Lyra took a tentative sip, her face twisting comically at the bitterness. "It's very robust," she commented diplomatically. Jack smiled and offered her some sugar and cream, which she accepted gratefully. As they adjusted their morning beverages, Jack became more serious. "So, what's the plan?" There must be someone out there looking for you, right? Lyra's expression sobered. Yes, but contacting them might not be safe for either of us. My arrival wasn't sanctioned. If my government knows I'm here, they might not be pleased about me fraternizing with a human. Jack considered this, his brow furrowing. We need to figure out a way to keep you safe then. Meanwhile, you can stay here as long as you need. I have plenty of room and, honestly, the company is nice. Lyra's smile returned, warmer this time. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your hospitality more than you can know. Maybe I can be useful here? I have knowledge about technology and medicine that is advanced by your standards. I could help you with your work. Intrigued, Jack leaned forward. I would like that. I mostly catalog stars and sometimes do freelance programming. What can you teach me? As a start, I can show you some of my tools. They're still in the ship. I didn't have time to retrieve everything last night, Lyra explained. Jack nodded, excited about the prospect. Let's go get them after breakfast. I'd love to see what you have. After a hearty meal, they walked back to the crash site. The wreckage looked less daunting by daylight. Lyra led Jack to the ship, retrieving a few items that looked like nothing Jack had seen before. This is a multiphasic scanner, Lyra said, handing him a sleek, silver device. It can read atmospheric data, biological signatures, and even some forms of energy. Jack was fascinated as he took the device, watching it light up at his touch. This is incredible. What else? Lyra pulled out another item, this one resembling a compact telescope. This is a quantum binocular. It can see through solid objects and has a range of about 5 kilometers. As they experimented with the alien technology, Jack realized how revolutionary Lyra's presence could be for his work and perhaps even for the broader scientific community. However, he also recognized the need to protect her and the information she held. Let's keep this between us for now, Jack suggested as they headed back to the cabin, at least until we figure out a safe way to introduce you and your knowledge. Lyra agreed, her trust in Jack growing. They spent the rest of the day testing out her gadgets, discussing potential applications, and planning for the days ahead. As the sun set, they sat back on the porch, a sense of companionship building between them. Jack, I never expected to find a friend on Earth, Lyra confessed. But I'm glad I did. Jack smiled, looking over at her with a newfound respect and camaraderie. Me too, Lyra. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Their partnership had begun as a simple act of kindness, but it was quickly becoming a journey of shared discovery and mutual protection. As dusk enveloped the woods surrounding Jack's cabin, he and Lyra prepared for an evening of stargazing, an activity Jack cherished and was eager to share with his new friend. The sky, a deep velvety blue speckled with stars, provided a perfect backdrop for their night. You're really in for a treat, Jack said, unfolding his portable telescope and pointing it towards the heavens. The skies are exceptionally clear tonight. Lyra watched him with an earnest gaze, her curiosity about Earth's cosmos palpable. On my world, stargazing is not just science. It's part of our spirituality. The stars are guides, friends, and historians all at once. Jack smiled, adjusting the telescope. Here, it can be pretty scientific, but I like to think there's a bit of magic in it too. Here, have a look. He stepped aside, gesturing for Lyra to come closer. Lyra peered through the telescope, gasping softly. It's beautiful, Jack. Your star, it's so much more than just a point of light. That's Sirius, the brightest star in our sky, Jack explained. What's the brightest star in your sky? It's called the Lyra, named after an ancient explorer from our history. It's much like your Sirius, bright and full of stories. Lyra stepped back, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Jack pointed out other constellations, Orion, Cassiopeia, and Scorpius, each with its own tale. Lyra listened, fascinated, and shared tales of her own celestial myths which mirrored the human stories in unexpected ways. As they talked and shared stories, Jack began to set up a small campfire near the cabin. How about we combine some Earth traditions with our stargazing? Ever tried s'mores? Lyra looked puzzled. S'mores? Jack laughed, pulling out marshmallows, chocolate, and graham crackers. It's a treat we make here on Earth. Marshmallows roasted over a fire, then sandwiched with chocolate between 2 crackers. Here, I'll show you. Together, they roasted marshmallows, Lyra fascinated by the flames licking the white puffs. Her first attempt turned her marshmallow into a fiery torch, causing her to yelp and Jack to burst into laughter. It's okay, that happens to the best of us, Jack chuckled, helping her manage a perfect golden brown marshmallow the next time. Lyra assembled her s'more and took a tentative bite, her expression lighting up. "This is delicious," she exclaimed, the sticky marshmallow pulling into strings as she spoke. Their laughter and chatter filled the air, blending with the crackle of the fire. The night unfolded with a shared warmth that went beyond the fire's glow, bridging worlds through the simple, universal joy of discovering and learning from one another. "Earth is quite special, Jack," Lyra said, her voice tinged with a warmth that echoed the ember's glow. "I see why you love these stars so much." Jack looked over, meeting her gaze. "It's even better sharing it with someone who appreciates it as much as I do." The night deepened, and they continued to talk about everything from astrophysics to the quirks of human and alien cuisine. Each topic opened new avenues for laughter and connection, deepening their bond in the quiet blue-black night under the watchful eyes of the universe. As they finally headed back inside, Lyra paused, looking up at the sky once more. "Jack, thank you for this night. I feel closer to home, yet excited to be so far from it." Jack placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You know, Lyra, in a way, as long as you're here, you are home." Their eyes met, and a silent agreement passed between them. No matter the distance from their origins, they had found a new kinship under the starlit sky of Earth. Jack had always appreciated the wonders of his home planet, but seeing them anew through Lyra's eyes added a layer of excitement to each experience. Today, they planned to visit the nearby lake, a spot where Jack often went to clear his mind and reconnect with nature. He was eager to show Lyra the serene beauty of Earth's landscapes, particularly the water, which she had said was scarce and revered on her planet. "Ready for a little adventure?" Jack asked as they packed a picnic basket and some swimming gear into his old, reliable Jeep. Lyra's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "I've never been swimming before. You'll have to teach me," she said, a mix of excitement and nervousness in her voice. "Don't worry, it's easy, and it's a lot of fun." "I think you'll love it," Jack assured her, closing the trunk with a thud. The drive to the lake was filled with their now familiar camaraderie, chatting about everything from music. Jack had introduced Lyra to several Earth genres, to the intricacies of Earth's ecosystems, which Lyra absorbed eagerly. Arriving at the lake, they found the perfect spot under a shady tree. The water was a clear, shimmering blue, inviting them in. Lyra watched children splashing and their families laughing together, a scene of joyous normalcy. "It's beautiful here, Jack," Lyra said, taking in the scenery with wide, appreciative eyes. Jack smiled, watching her reaction. "It gets even better in the water. Come on, let's get you swimming." They changed into their swimwear, and Jack led Lyra to the water's edge, giving her a brief rundown of swimming basics. The first steps into the cool water made Lyra gasp with delight. Jack held her hand as she acclimated to the sensation, then slowly taught her how to float. Lyra's initial hesitance gave way to laughter as she found herself floating independently. "Jack, it's like being weightless, isn't it? Like space, but with the warmth of the sun," Lyra exclaimed, her face alight with joy. "Exactly," Jack laughed, splashing her gently, "but with the added benefit of fresh air and sunlight." They spent the afternoon swimming and playing in the water, Jack showing Lyra how to make water ripples and swim underwater. Their playful shouts and laughter echoed across the lake, blending with the sounds of nature around them. After tiring themselves out, they retreated to their picnic spot. As they ate, Lyra tried some new Earth foods, sandwiches with different fillings, fresh fruits, and a homemade lemonade Jack had prepared. "This food, the water, your company, it makes Earth feel like a home," Lyra said, her voice soft with gratitude. Jack looked at her, feeling a profound connection. "I'm glad, Lyra. It's amazing, isn't it? How sharing simple things can make the universe seem a little smaller." "Yes, it is," Lyra agreed, her gaze lingering on the lake, reflective and peaceful. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues over the water, Jack and Lyra packed up their belongings. They walked back to the jeep, their shoulders brushing occasionally, a comfortable silence between them as they both reflected on the day. "Thank you for today, Jack." "For everything," Lyra said as they neared the car, the sky painting vibrant colors above them. Jack smiled, opening the door for her. "Thank you, Lyra, for seeing the beauty in all these normal things. It's like I'm discovering them all over again with you." The drive home was quiet, each lost in thoughts about their shared day and the deepening bond between them, a bond that was becoming as vital as the air Jack breathed. As they arrived back at the cabin, the last of the sunset faded, and the first stars appeared, reminding them of their first night together under the stars, a perfect circle coming to close another perfect day. The local cultural festival was an event Jack had always enjoyed, but this year was different. He was excited to introduce Lyra to this vibrant aspect of human culture. The festival was a kaleidoscope of music, dance, art, and food from around the world, perfect for Lyra's first immersive experience into human festivities. As they walked through the bustling streets, Lyra's eyes were wide with wonder. So many colors, sounds, and smells. "It's overwhelming but in a delightful way," she commented, taking in the sights around her. Jack grinned, watching her reaction. "It's a celebration of diversity. Each stall, each performance has a story from a different part of the world. Where do you want to start?" Lyra pointed to a nearby music stage where a group was setting up traditional drums. "There. Music has always fascinated me." They made their way to the stage, finding a spot among the crowd. The drummers began with a slow rhythm that gradually built into a complex tapestry of sound. Lyra's body swayed with the beats, completely caught up in the experience. After the performance, they wandered through rows of stalls, each offering a glimpse into different cultural artifacts and cuisines. Jack encouraged Lyra to try various foods: spicy tamales from Mexico, creamy gelato from Italy, and tangy samosas from India. Lyra tasted each offering with enthusiasm, her favorite being the gelato. "It's like nothing we have on my planet. The cold, creamy texture is incredibly refreshing." "I thought you might like it," Jack said, pleased with her reaction. Their next stop was at a booth displaying intricate beadwork. Lyra touched the beads gently, admiring their craftsmanship. "These are similar to a form of art on my planet. We use crystals, not beads, and they serve both decorative and functional purposes." "Really? What kind of functions do they serve?" Jack asked, intrigued. "They can store energy, emit light, or be used in technology. Art and utility are often intertwined where I come from," Lyra explained, her face animated with the passion of sharing her culture. "That's fascinating. It seems like both our worlds find ways to blend aesthetics with practicality," Jack observed, linking the conversation back to the similarities between their cultures. As they continued to explore, they stumbled upon a dance area where couples were gracefully moving to a slow, haunting melody. Jack looked at Lyra, offering his hand with a shy smile. "Would you like to try dancing?" Lyra nodded, her expression a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I'd love to, though I must warn you, I've never danced before." Jack led her to the dance floor, placing one hand on her waist and holding her other hand gently. "Just follow my lead. It's all about feeling the music and moving together." Slowly, they began to move to the music. At first, Lyra was stiff, overly conscious of her steps, but as the song continued, she relaxed, finding the rhythm and floating along with Jack's guidance. The music enveloped them, and for a few moments, there was nothing else but the two of them, moving in sync. As the song ended, they remained on the dance floor for a moment longer, reluctant to break the connection. "Thank you, Jack. That was more enjoyable than I anticipated," Lyra said, her cheeks flushed with happiness. Jack smiled, leading her off the dance floor. "I'm glad you enjoyed it." They spent the rest of the evening enjoying the festival, participating in painting workshops and watching a fireworks show that lit up the night sky with dazzling colors. As they walked home, Lyra looked over at Jack. "Today was incredible. Thank you for sharing your culture with me. It's made me feel even closer to your world." Jack nodded, feeling the same connection. "And I loved learning about yours. It's days like these that remind us how much we can share and learn from each other, despite being from different worlds. Under the starlit sky, their hearts lighter and their spirits intertwined with new experiences, they both knew that these shared moments were just the beginning. Jack was in his workshop, tinkering with a piece of equipment from Lyra's ship, when the unexpected sound of gravel crunching under car tires drew his attention. He peered out the window to see a sleek, black government SUV pulling up to the cabin. His heart sank. This wasn't a social visit. Lyra, who had been assisting Jack with the equipment, noticed his sudden tension. "What's wrong, Jack?" "We've got company," Jack muttered, setting down his tools and wiping his hands on a rag. "Government types, by the look of it." As they approached, two men in suits stepped out of the vehicle, their expressions unreadable. Jack stepped outside to meet them, with Lyra close behind, her curiosity mixed with a trace of concern. "Mr. Hawthorne?" One of the men started, his voice official. "I'm Agent Carlyle, and this is Agent Dunn. We're here to discuss the visitor you've been hosting." Jack's protective instincts flared up. "Lyra is here as my guest. She's not causing any trouble." Agent Carlyle nodded slightly, his gaze drifting towards Lyra. "Miss, we're aware of your extraterrestrial origin. We need to ensure that your presence here doesn't pose a risk to national security." Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady despite the situation. "I assure you, I have no such intentions. My only wish is to learn from and perhaps teach a few things to Mr. Hawthorne." Agent Dunn, who had been silently assessing the scene, finally spoke. "We appreciate the peaceful nature of your visit, ma'am. However, there are protocols. We need to document your presence officially and conduct a formal interview. It's standard procedure." Jack looked at Lyra, trying to gauge her comfort with the situation. "Lyra, you don't have to go anywhere with them if you don't want to. We can talk right here." Lyra nodded, her expression firm. "I will cooperate, but as Jack suggested, we can talk here." The agents conferred quietly before agreeing. The impromptu interview conducted on the porch was tense yet civil. Lyra answered their questions transparently, explaining her scientific background, the purpose of her escape, and her peaceful intentions. After the agents had gathered enough information, Agent Carlyle finally said, "Thank you for your cooperation, Mississippi. We'll need to report back, but I don't foresee any major issues. Just keep us informed of any developments." With a polite nod, the agents departed, leaving Jack and Lyra alone again. Jack let out a long breath, running his fingers through his hair. "Sorry about that. I didn't expect them to show up like this." Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "It's not your fault, Jack. We knew there might be complications. I'm just glad we could handle it together." They went back inside, the earlier mood of camaraderie overshadowed by the encounter. "Do you think they'll come back?" Lyra asked, concern lacing her voice. "They might," Jack admitted, his tone serious. "But whatever happens, I'm here. We're in this together, remember?" Lyra smiled weakly, her usual vibrancy dimmed by the day's events. "Together," she echoed, finding comfort in the word. The rest of the day passed quietly, both processing the reality of their situation. Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of protectiveness over Lyra. He had come to value not only her friendship, but also her unique perspective on the world. As night fell, they sat together, not saying much, each lost in thought. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but filled with a mutual understanding of the complexities they now faced. Jack finally broke the silence. "Hey, Lyra, no matter what the government says or does, we'll figure this out. I'm with you all the way." Lyra looked at him, a soft smile curving her lips. "Thank you, Jack. Knowing I'm not alone in this is more reassuring than you can imagine." They ended the night watching the stars in silence, the celestial bodies a soothing, familiar sight amidst the uncertainty of their earthly concerns. The evening was quiet, a stark contrast to the day's earlier tensions. Jack and Lyra sat in the living room, each lost in their thoughts. The visit from the government agents had left a palpable tension in the air, prompting deeper reflections on their situation. "Lyra," Jack finally broke the silence, his voice hesitant but firm. "We need to think about what's next. It's clear now that your presence here isn't something that can stay under the radar forever." Lyra nodded, her gaze meeting his. I know, Jack. And I've been thinking, maybe it's time for me to find a way to communicate with my people. If the government is going to keep tabs on us, maybe having my people aware could provide us some leverage or protection. Jack rubbed his chin, considering her words. That makes sense, but it's risky. What if your government decides to take action? We need a plan that keeps you safe, but also doesn't escalate things. Lyra leaned forward, her eyes alight with a mix of fear and determination. I've been working on something, she confessed. A communication device, using parts from my ship and some of your technology. I believe I can send a message without being traced by your government or mine. Jack was impressed. You've been busy, he said with a half smile. Let's hear it then. How does this device work? Lyra pulled out a small, intricate device from her bag. It surfaces a blend of alien tech and earthly components. It uses quantum entanglement to send messages across vast distances almost instantaneously. The challenge was modifying it to avoid detection, which I think I've managed by integrating some of the stealth technology you showed me. Jack examined the device, his mind racing through the possibilities and dangers. And you think this will work without putting you directly in the spotlight? I'm confident it will, Lyra replied, but I want your input. We're in this together, after all. Jack nodded, his respect for Lyra's intellect and resolve deepening. All right, let's test it out then. But we do it carefully. Maybe send a general message first, see who responds before giving away your location or details. Lyra agreed, and they spent the next few hours setting up the device, ensuring every precaution was taken. When it was ready, Lyra typed out a message in her language, explaining her situation in the most general terms. Here goes nothing, she murmured, pressing the send button. They waited in silence, the air thick with anticipation. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours until the device beeped softly, signaling a received response. Lyra read the message, her expression a mixture of relief and concern. What does it say? Jack asked, unable to keep the edge out of his voice. It's from a sympathizer within my government. They advise caution but are willing to help negotiate some form of asylum or protection for me, Lyra explained, a cautious hope in her voice. That's good news, isn't it? Jack said, though the worry was clear in his tone. It is, Lyra agreed. But we must be careful. We need to prepare for any outcome. The rest of the night was spent planning. They discussed various scenarios, formulating responses, and further securing the cabin from potential threats. It was late when they finally allowed themselves a break, stepping outside to breathe in the cool night air. Look at us, Jack, Lyra said, a small laugh escaping her. From stargazers to conspirators in 1 week. Jack chuckled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Yeah, but at least we're not bored. Lyra leaned into his embrace, looking up at the stars. Never bored, she agreed. Thank you, Jack, for standing by me. Always, Lyra. Whatever comes, we face it together, Jack affirmed, squeezing her shoulder. As they stood in the quiet night, the stars twinkling above, a sense of unity fortified them against the uncertainties ahead. Together, they had turned a chance encounter into a deep bond, one that would guide them through whatever challenges the future held. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft, golden glow over the cabin. Jack and Lyra stood outside, watching the horizon brighten, a symbolic reflection of their own new beginning. They had spent the night discussing their plans and the steps they would take going forward, each moment deepening their resolve. It's a beautiful morning, Lyra observed, her voice tinged with a mixture of awe and apprehension. It is, Jack agreed, turning to look at her. Feels like the world is starting anew, just for us. Lyra smiled, her fears momentarily eclipsed by the beauty of the dawn. Jack, about today. Jack held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Before you say anything, I want you to know, no matter what the outcome, I believe we've done something extraordinary here. We've built something between us, between our worlds, that's worth defending. Lyra nodded, her eyes meeting his with a fierce determination. I agree. And no matter what happens, I want to continue building this with you. Their plan was to meet with the government agents again, this time to negotiate terms of Lyra's stay on Earth, backed by the silent support of her sympathetic contacts from her home planet. The risk was still substantial, but they were better prepared now, both practically and emotionally. "We should head out soon," Jack suggested. "We need to get to the meeting place early," set the tone. Lyra took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Let's do this, Jack. Let's go create a new future." They drove to the meeting site, a secluded government facility that felt less intimidating in the early morning light. Agent Carlyle was already there waiting, his demeanor unreadable as usual. "Mr. Hawthorne, Ms. Lyra," he greeted them formally. "We're prepared to hear your terms." Jack stepped forward, with Lyra beside him. "Thank you, Agent Carlyle. First, we want to assure you that Lyra's intentions are peaceful. She's here to learn and to share knowledge, not to seek refuge or asylum. However, given the unique circumstances, we propose a cultural exchange program." Agent Carlyle raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "Lyra can offer knowledge and insights from her world in exchange for protection and the freedom to live here, under supervision if necessary," Jack continued, his voice steady. "It's a chance for Earth to learn from another civilization, a mutually beneficial arrangement." The agent considered this, his expression slowly shifting from skepticism to interest. "And you believe your government contacts will agree to this?" Lyra answered this time, her voice confident. "They have already expressed their willingness to support this initiative discreetly. They see the potential benefits." Agent Carlyle nodded, jotting down notes. "This is unconventional, but I see the merit. I'll need to discuss it with my superiors, but I believe we can reach an agreement." Relief washed over Jack and Lyra as they left the facility. As they drove back, the world seemed to shift around them, the landscape alive with possibilities. "Whatever they decide, we've started something new today, haven't we?" Lyra asked, watching the scenery blur past. "We have," Jack confirmed, a proud smile on his face. "We've taken the first steps towards a future where humans and aliens can learn from each other openly." As they arrived back at the cabin, they took a moment to enjoy the peace of their secluded haven. They knew challenges lay ahead, but they also knew they had each other and a shared vision. "Let's make plans to visit your planet next," Jack suggested, his eyes sparkling with excitement and curiosity. Lyra laughed, the sound bright and hopeful. "I'd like that, and I think they'd love to meet you too." Standing together, hand in hand, they watched the sun climb higher into the sky, its light promising a new day, a new era for them both.